Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. Today it's time for another nervous guide video. Now if you've never been in here before and you're like, what is a nervous guide? We'll get into that in 2 whole seconds. But today we are talking all things Bat Out of Hell. So let's get into it and let's explain what is a nervous guide. Hit the music. So as I just said, basically for every show that I see, I try and do 2 separate videos, time allowing. Firstly is this video here. This is the nervous guide. The nervous guide is basically everything you need to know before going into the show. So that could be content warnings, sensory warnings, things about where I sat and my view from my seat, anything to do with the theatre, if it's theatre I've never been to before, or if it's something that I know about the theatre that might help. Everything you need to know before going in, that's this video. The second video we do is the review. The review is always in inverted commas because at the end of the day I'm basically just one person who really enjoys theatre and likes talking about it every so often. So that then means that I can talk about what I think, but it might not be the same as everybody else's. So let's get into it. Let's talk all things Bat Out of Hell. Firstly, after last time's review slash nervous guide for the Addams Family, I have a programme for this one. Thank you. If you don't know that whole story, go back and watch the last 2 videos, but it was a thing of contention that I did not have a programme to hold for the Addams Family. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's start with seat. So seat wise, we were sat in the dress circle in F34 and 35, which is kind of off to the left hand side as you come into the auditorium at the Grand. I have sat there before. I in fact sat there to watch Rocky Horror Picture Show, so it must be just like my kind of Rocky musical seat, who knows. The only thing to mention about those seats, actually there's 2 things to mention. Because of the curvature of the Grand Theatre, you do miss a little bit on the left hand side of the stage as you're looking at it from your seat. Not a great deal. I think I basically missed that there is a little bit more band in the one corner from pictures I've seen of other people who've seen the show at the Grand, because I actually saw it on press night, didn't mean to, it just happened that way. But there was no action I missed at any point in that regard. And the second thing to mention is that next to the seat I sat in, there is a balustrade, I think it is. Basically you can go in and out of the row that we were sat in of 4 seats through the same way. You can't go in and out like you do with a normal aisle, or a normal row should I say, where you've got an aisle on both sides. There isn't one. Some people might enjoy the fact that you've got somewhere to lean, like me. Some people might not like it because it's more difficult to get out. Well, I had no problems. As I said, I sat there before, so I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. So that is seat. You know what, let's dive into content sensory things because there is a lot. Also to mention running time. Now the running time according to the website is different to the running time of the show. As you booked your tickets, there was a message sent like the day before saying, just so you know, your running time is this. It was saying it was 2 hours 40 including an interval. However, on entering the theatre and just before you get into the auditorium, there is a different sign saying the slight little bit of sensory warning-ish notes, and also this performance is 2 hours 15 including a 20-minute interval, and that was the actual correct one. So let's get into the rest of the things you need to know, which is basically the content and sensory bits and bobs, if you will. Firstly, let's just quickly mention the things that affect me 9 times out of 10 are visible guns and visible weapons, firing of said guns, other loud noises, occasionally flashing lights, and sometimes when there is a lot of chaos and when there's a lot going on, like a major sensory thing. Now, this show is quite sensory heavy, I feel. In fact, everything that I have just mentioned pretty much can be ticked off the list. So as I mentioned, as we went into the auditorium, there was a sign saying what the show contains. So according to the Grand Theatre, it says Bat Out of Hell contains pyro, haze and strobe lighting. 100% agree with all three of those. The pyro I will get into in a little bit when I talk about my notes, but yeah, all three of those, tick tick tick. I also went onto Google and was like, right, anyone going to help me with content and sensory warnings? The Sadler's Wells and / the Peacock Theatre put on their website when they had it, the performance, or this performance, features strong language, mature sexual themes, loud music, haze effects, theatrical smoke, strobe lighting, pyrotechnics, including flames and CO2 jet confetti. Again, tick 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 tick, absolutely yes. The overall things to mention before I get into my little bits, the music was loud throughout. Not like loud burst in your eardrums really sore afterwards, but it was, as you would probably expect from a rock based musical, quite strong, quite loud, and it did get, you had to take some getting used to, and it's something to be aware of. Same with the flashing lights, both on individual actors at different times, also during different songs, and for different reasons. Let's get into my notes. This right here is the most I've probably written that I encountered, shall we say, in a show for a while. If you don't know, I try my best to write down during the interval for Act 1 and then on the way home for Act 2 what kind of affected me. I really would like at some point to try and like set in some timings just so I can be like, this happens at this point, but at the moment all I've got is telling you what song it happened in or at what point it happened in. So Act 1, firstly, it started really suddenly. I was definitely keeping an eye on the MD for the show, because sometimes you can pick up the cue and then they're like, and you're in. I didn't get that from this, basically because everyone was just happily chatting in the audience, and then the lights went out and one person is stood on stage with a light on top of them and it was like a doom moment, and that's how the show starts. Very much a whoo kind of moment, and there's a few of those thanks to the aforementioned confetti, which we'll get into in a later date. Next up, in the first song, which is All Rubbed Up with Nowhere to Go, the song does have the flashing lights through it. That is also accompanied with a couple of smoke bombs, I think. Basically the Lost, who are the main resistance group, are fighting against the powers that be, and they are throwing stuff. It tends to be both, I think, off both sides of the stage. So they go off stage, they are thrown off the stage, and then smoke appears. I don't remember there being a loud bang with them. It was more a throw, fog. But it is something to be aware of, because I thought there was going to be a noise. I don't remember there being one. Moving on, however, and I have already mentioned the flashing lights throughout and that it's loud, so moving on to point number 4. In the song Paradise by the Dashboard Light, it starts pretty much during a party scene for the lead female character's 18th birthday. Then their parents start talking about love and romance and how it used to be, and you see the female character Raven pick up a confetti cannon, and just as they are starting to talk more about the more moments, Raven sets the cannon off. There is it's a good bang, shall we say, and that's how the song starts. There is also nudity that happens during that song. I know, shocking. That song also finishes with a car which has been brought on for the song going back off the stage after being lit up. Basically, again, Raven pours something over the car and then it gets pushed back through the tunnel, and then there is a car explosion of sorts to indicate that the car is now on fire, and it has gone boom. The final big one for me was the song Bat Out of Hell. Now, Bat Out of Hell has pretty much everything. So the song starts and both the lead female and male actors are singing the song. During the song, however, there is 2 lots of confetti cannons, should I say, quite loud ones again. There was fire coming from the front of the stage through like a pyrotechnic fire, which is towards the end of the song, but you can feel that, at least in our theatre, because it is quite compact, you could feel the heat of that fire, and the temperature was hot already before the show started, that we didn't need the fire, thank you. It was already hot enough. The other thing to mention about Bat Out of Hell, towards the end of the song, once Raven has left and it's just Strat, the lead male singer, singing the end of the song, he takes his top off and then he smears red all over his chest, and it's all over his hands. He then licked his hand, and thanks to Wikipedia, and we will get into this a little bit more in the review video, thanks to Wikipedia I found out that that was to symbolise basically that he had crashed the motorbike, or the motorbike had crashed and it was squashing him, and that was blood. But it was a lot going on in Bat Out of Hell, and I was quite grateful that that is how Act 1 finished. It also finished with a blackout and a lot of confetti. It was a lot. It was a very sudden finish. It finished with a blackout and there was a pff of confetti just beforehand. So it was a very like, okay, I need an interval kind of break. So yeah, that was the end of Act 1. Act 2, I don't remember it starting as suddenly, and I didn't write it in my notes, but I think I was a bit more cautious about how it was going to start again. I think the warning we had that it was going to start again was that one of the characters came onto the stage, and that was kind of the inkling for everyone to like stop talking, etc. The thing to talk about in Act 2 is some visible gun sightings. Firstly, during a scene in the bedroom area of the stage, there is a visible gun in a bag. The camera is used and it is pointed into the bag, and it's kind of, here, there's a gun in here, just so you know. That is then shot later in the scene, and it is shot twice. The sound effect is not loud, but it is held. It's shot twice, and then it is held continuously until the character who is holding it leaves the room. There is no more gunshots in that scene. However, the gun comes back later in Act 2, this time held by the character of Falco, and he again fires it twice. Again, not a loud gun sound, not a loud gunshot in comparison to other things that happen on this stage, but it is a visible gun. He holds it up, he points it, he shoots it twice, and then I feel like it's took off him, or no, he puts it away, and then it is not seen again in that scene or throughout the show. So there is a few visible gun sightings. It's usually held by one of two people, that being either Falco or, bear with because I'm going to get the name wrong if I don't get it right, Zahara is the other person who holds it. So those are the two people you need to be aware of. But like I said, they aren't loud gunshot sounds. I think it's more of a drum as opposed to a... I'm terrible. Why do I do this to myself? I don't know. But visible guns are one of my main things. If I see a gun being on stage, my fingers tend to go to my ears just in case. So I just thought I'd let you know. And then basically the last thing to mention was that the bows again finish with confetti cannon, and a mighty big one. It comes into the auditorium, pretty much lands at our venue, all over the stalls, who then traipsed it out into the street because the amount of gold glitter that was everywhere when we were leaving the theatre was immense. But top marks and props to everyone who works behind the scenes at Bat Out of Hell on the UK tour, because the cleaning that they must have to do after every show, like Act 1, like I said, it finishes on a blackout. The lights of the auditorium then came up, still as some of the cast were getting off, including the person who was just about to die, or was supposed to have died, so we're not going to go on that, and he was like, yeah. But then the tidy up that happened in that interval, like, props to them, because the amount of confetti that was on after that ending of Act 1 was immense. I think there was 2 like leaf sucker blower things going on. There was brooms, there was mops, there was everything, and the safety curtain came up for the start of Act 2 and there was nothing to be seen. So like, props to everyone on that tour who was in charge of doing that, because it was very impressive. But there we are, that is pretty much everything. I said that's pretty much everything, but that is a lot compared to other things I've seen this year, and for a while I'd say. There is a lot in the sensory content warning area for you. I did also think I should mention, but I forgot, the age restriction or the age recommendation for this show, or at least for the Grand version, or for the week that it was at the Grand. On their website they suggest 13 plus. 100% recommend that. Maybe even a little bit more. It's not, nothing's massively graphic. Well, is it? There is some graphicness to it. I mean, whole of Bat Out of Hell is a lot. Also driving, yeah, maybe slightly higher, but I would definitely say don't be like me, don't go in completely blind. Do maybe a little bit of research. If not, you will probably spend most of your interval reading on Wikipedia what the plot of the show was, just so you know what's going on. But yeah, that is that. I'm going to silence myself here and say thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you come back for more theatre-based content next time. As always, the next video you will hopefully see is the review to this show. I still haven't finished writing my notes, and I still don't know how I'm going to get through that entire video. it could be interesting. So hold on to your hats for that one. But yeah, I'm going to leave this video here and say thank you very much for watching. All that's left to say is the usual, which is so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye. Bye.